Welcome to this preview of the second episode of the Jessamine History Walks podcast, the Locust Grove Cemetery audio tour. I'm Carrie Green. Locust Grove Cemetery is an African-American cemetery in Nicholasville, Kentucky. In February 2019, the library recorded interviews with current and former Jessamine County residents about their relatives who were buried in Locust Grove. In this preview, Frank Cannon Jr. remembers his parents, Ora Belle and Frank Cannon Sr. Frank R. Cannon Sr. was born in Jessamine County in 1913 and died in 1988. He graduated from high school in Nicholasville and earned an A.B. degree from Kentucky State University. He was one of the first graduate students to integrate the University of Kentucky. He earned a Master's of Education there. He later completed postgraduate work at the Tuskegee Institute and at Atlanta University. Cannon served as principal of Rosenwald-Dunbar School. He was the first African-American member of the Jessamine County Board of Education. He left Jessamine County to work as a principal and superintendent of the Lincoln Heights school system in Ohio. He taught in the Cincinnati school system before returning to Central Kentucky, where he served as director of the Head Start program in Lexington, Fayette County. Frank Cannon Jr. talked to us about his father's role in the community.
Naturally, being a school teacher and principal of the school at that time, he was well known here in Nicholasville. Mm-hmm. And after he retired from teaching, he also was in the Retired Teachers Association here in Jessamine County Retired Teachers Association. He was active in that on up until he passed. Mm-hmm. So he was pretty much into the public view as far as being well known in the community. Mm-hmm. On top of that, he had a repair shop which drew in customers from all over Fayette, Jessamine County. Mm-hmm. So he got to be known in that way also. When I retired from service in 1980, I came back home here, and then I worked with him in the shop. He owned the shop. Mm-hmm. I worked in there until he passed, and after his passing, then I continued to run the shop until around 91, somewhere like that.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like working with your father?
Very, very, very good. We trained several other mechanics. We also had I think it was the FFA or FHA, where kids come to school. Mm-hmm. Gave them a course during the winter time on engine repair for the lawnmowers or rotors or what they had. They would come to the shop every week, and if they didn't have an engine to work on, we gave them one because we had plenty of them in the rear, where we completely tore it down all the way down to nothing, built it back up, and then pulled the starter open and started. And that was very rewarding to us as well as to the kids. We had a couple of kids that took first place in the state competitions, of which one was a girl.
Oh, that's awesome. And what year was that?
It had to been in maybe 83, 84, somewhere like that.
That's great. So your dad was teaching even after he'd retired.
After he retired, you never give up teaching. Yeah.
Did he ever tell you any stories about his teaching career?
No, because I went to school under him.
Oh, did you? So what was that like?
Very, to me, very restrictive. Things I wanted to do, I couldn't do because of status there. Teachers, at that time, the teachers had a very good interest in the students. Mm-hmm. And one of my teachers, she corrected me several times, letting me know that I could not do that because my father was the principal, and that was certainly a bad example for other students.
Right.
So it was kind of restricted, but it was very nice. He was very strict, very as far as discipline goes. Mm-hmm. A very good teacher. In college, he majored in math and history, so that was his strong points, and he taught that history, math, science. During the summertime, he was raising tobacco, worked with another contractor, Brown Sebastian, in concrete during the summer. He also went up to New York as a supervisor there in one of the factories during the summertime. Because at that time they only paid teachers 9 months out of the year. So he had to do something for the other 2.5 months.
Right.
So he did that. At one time he was sharecropping on 3 other farms.
Wow.
In addition to raising it on this farm where we still live at now, the home farm. So that was taught us the value of not being lazy, but to actually get out and do stuff. At home on the farm area, we had, once again, typical farm with cattle and your poultry, the chickens, geese, ducks, guineas, what have you. Cattle that we had to take care of during the winter and summer. That was my brother and I's job to do that. And it was something that we did every morning. This time of the year, before my father took over as principal, he was also driving school bus.
Oh, wow.
So he would, yes, he kept busy.
Sounds like
He'd
it.
drive the school bus and pick us up. And if you weren't out there, we had to walk to school a couple of times because he said, I'd be by at 7:26. And if you were out there at 7:27, you were late.
Oh, wow.
And we walked home. We had to walk, so we got that. I guess that's some of the memories that we remember. Cause it was a long walk from home to school, about 4 miles, a little over 4 miles.
Yeah, I guess you learned your lesson.
Very quickly.
Frank Cannon Sr.'s wife, Ora Belle Hamilton Cannon, is buried next to him. She was born in 1911 and died in 1998. Frank Cannon Jr. shared some of his memories about his mother and her own teaching career.
She's from Breckenridge County, in western Kentucky. She met my father down in Kentucky State. And then they got married when he finished college in 1936. And then she taught school, a little school called Little Zion out on Catnip Hill Road. I remember her teaching there. She also drove school bus to pick up kids at that area there. Little one-room school from 1st through the 6th grades. So one teacher, and that was her.
Wow.
Her school bus at that time was an old 1937 Ford bread wagon. Well, that was a little bit better than what we had. The bus that my father drove at that time was a 1937 ambulance.
Oh, wow.
And did not even paint it yellow. It was still black. Had a board down one side and board down the other side. That's what we set on.
Oh, okay.
My mother had her school bus, the same thing. That little panel truck they call them bread wagons. Board down each side, but she would drive the school bus, pick up kids, and teach, and then in the evening time take them all back home.
Wow.
And then when the integrated schools are consolidated, rather, before integration, consolidated schools, they did away with all these little outlying one-room schools, as you had, where they had 1 or 2 teachers, and brought them all into Nicholasville to the high schools that were here. Then, of course, when integration came along in the late 50s, then they started doing away with a lot of the other schools. My mother wound up teaching over to Wilmore during her final years before she retired, taught the Wilmore Elementary School. And I think it was either 2nd or 4th grade. She taught both grades over there. And that's when she retired from there.
So you didn't go to the same school that your mother taught at?
No,
she taught at a different school?
I went strictly to Nicholasville, up there to at that time it was called Rosenwald-Dunbar, at the end of Chestnut Street, the buildings there. It was enough to have my father as a teacher. I didn't need to go about my father's teacher. Although they taught us when we got back home, though.
Right. And did you have any favorite memories of your mother that you wanted to share?
She was, once again, a very caring person, quiet, took interest in her students. if a student didn't learn, then she took extra time out for that particular student to help them out. She'd bring her work home at night, take it back in the morning time, and then discuss what she could do to get a student to learn. For some students, you cannot get through to them. You just can't. Sometimes it's a personality, sometimes it's your voice, sometimes it's the student just doesn't want to learn. But she tried to reach every student that she could to make sure that student learned when she got out of her class. What they did in the next class, I don't know. But when she had them, she wanted to make sure of that. The other thing was she was a very Christian lady also. Made sure that my brother and I, we stayed out all night. We got up Sunday morning, we went to church. I don't care what you were like when you came in. Very nice.
Thank you for listening to this preview of the Locust Grove Cemetery audio tour. Find the complete tour in the second episode of the Jessamine History Walks podcast. It's available at jesspublib.org/Jessamine-history-walks.